has the lockdown affected your wedding plans? Send us your views and videos. We'd like to hear from you. Now, a viewer sent us a video about how the lockdown affected her wedding plans. Let's take a look.
Hi there, my name is Zola Chwete. So, how the lockdown has affected me and my fiance's wedding plan is that we had to postpone our wedding, which was supposed to take place in April. The reason why we have to postpone was, firstly, my husband can't come home because of the regulations and the lockdown, because he's currently working in Abu Dhabi, so he can't come home right now. And the reason why the 50 people regulation that was proposed by the president won't work for us is because we have already paid the venue for 150 guests. So, and the reason why that the 50 people regulation won't work is obviously because we've already paid, everything has been paid for. Secondly, in our guest list, both of us have about more than 70 guests, so reducing that to 50 just won't work for us, and it will be impossible for us to have the wedding anyway because my husband is not here, he's not allowed to travel, and so yeah.
Belief Wedding Creators research shows that more than 45% of South African weddings have been postponed due to COVID-19. The international platform and wedding planners community conducted research with more than 1,000 vendors from 47 countries. Results showed that 30.26% of weddings were postponed for later in 2020 and 15.64% for 2021. So how has this affected the wedding planning industry? I'm joined by wedding planner Precious Thamaga, who is founder of Precious Celebrations. Precious, good evening and thank you for your time tonight. How do you break the news or even convince a disappointed couple that big weddings are just not going to happen anytime soon?
Hi, Thabo. It's a difficult question, but I think being already on level 3 and almost going for month 3 and 4, a lot of couples that were planning to get married in 2020, they've had to postpone away. I think if you've got a professional hand in your wedding, the best advice that I've been giving to couples to postpone and not wait until the last minute, only to be appointed or lose that they've already. So especially people that were planning to have big weddings. A few people that have more smaller celebrations are being hopeful that towards the end of the year, the ban will be lifted and gathering celebrations will still be allowed.
How do you help them through those stages of denial to coming to the point where they accept that, look, I mean, especially if you have a couple, for example, that has been planning a wedding for 2 years, they've probably been engaged for 4 years, they really thought they want to stick to this particular anniversary date, and it is very important to them. How do you take them through that stage of denial to them accepting that it's going to have to happen next year?
It's quite a personal choice. So my advice, if a couple wants to keep the date that is very sentimental to them, is to, as now we have received the news that Home Affairs registered weddings would be allowed. So I think if more of the celebration is what you can't have right now, and that's what is going to be postponed, I think a lot of people are opting for home weddings or smaller celebrations in the safety of their own home, so that their wedding anniversary doesn't change. But also in terms of, postponing without having anything at all, I think it's couples that realize that for them a celebration and celebrating their love also involves inviting a lot of people, inviting their family and friends, and for them it doesn't make sense if they can't have it that way as they had planned. So I think it differs to every person. It's a personal choice. I think people can still have their wedding if obviously everything is adhered to, and if it's a wedding at home, but also if you do it the right way, and it's just so that you have the wedding date still the same. But we as an industry are trying to have the regulation on our side as well, that we can have smaller celebrations. I think as experts, we're more likely to make sure that all the regulations are adhered to. I think if they can allow churches as well as funerals that have been going for some time, our industry is hit very hard, and I think we have to be considered to be able to work again. And we'll make sure like all those precautions are taken very seriously. But if not, a home celebration with just your family is also something that people are opting for.
Talk to me about how Precious Celebrations has adapted and is thinking out of the box. You're talking about the Blooms by Precious. What is that?
So my work over the last 10 years has always involved, luxury flowers. And after, the agriculture and horticulture industry was allowed to trade again, it was one of the spaces that I realized I can still make a living. So Blooms by Precious is a concierge where if someone is celebrating a birthday, it's a contactless, delivery of beautiful floral bouquets. So if someone is celebrating a birthday, it's a gifting service that is still aligned to what my business is all about. So that's what I'm keeping myself busy with at the moment, because, you can't just sit and have your own pity party and feel sorry for yourself. Everybody is getting back to work. And as I said, we can't in terms of celebrations. Our work is people. So I had to think of other ways to stay afloat. And Blooms by Precious was launched last year. So this is the time that I realized I can put more effort into it and do something about it.
Have you seen those couples that have decided to maybe postpone saving up for those little extra precious items that otherwise they were not able to afford them in their previous budget?
Absolutely. I think a lot of other couples are seeing it as an opportunity to fine-tune what they had planned for their wedding. Save a little bit more on things that they couldn't actually afford if they were going to have their wedding earlier this year or later in the part of the year. So I think some couples are seeing it in a positive way rather than being disappointed. Obviously, people that had to cancel too close to the time, some have had to lose their deposits and money that they've spent already. But that's when you have to make sure your contracts, you've gone through them and you know exactly what you're signing for when you enlisting suppliers, for example. But I think a lot of more people are being able to have more time to plan their wedding and save up a little bit more on items that they couldn't probably afford because their wedding was coming up too soon. So, yeah.
Precious, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us tonight. Precious Thamaga of Precious Celebrations. Next, we speak to